Welcome to the Maturity Assessment in Hyver. This is a short introductory video about the Maturity Assessment feature. The Hyver platform provides the capability to do a comprehensive cybersecurity maturity assessment of your organization. Hyver incorporates the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover security functions in the maturity assessment, as described in the NIST CSF. This video provides an overview of maturity assessment, followed by high-level details about the user interface and how the assessment works. What is cybersecurity maturity? Cybersecurity maturity measures the effectiveness of an organization's readiness and capability to protect against cyber attacks, achieved through evaluating how your organization performs in areas such as identification of systems, processes, and people, protection against cyber attacks, detection of cybersecurity events, responses to cybersecurity incidents, and recovery from those incidents. The more mature your company's cybersecurity is, the lower the risk over time. What is maturity in Hyver? Maturity assessment in Hyver enables CISOs to do the following: calculate the organization's maturity, benchmark to their industry sector, define maturity targets, create mitigation plans to meet their targets, track progress over time, objectively, continuously, and automatically. Let's look at the maturity assessment screen. At the top, we have the Organization Maturity Score, which is the maturity score that is calculated when the assessment is completed to a defined level. The maturity score ranges from 1 to 5. Next, we have the Target Maturity Score, which you can set or change anytime. You can set a target if it's not already set, or change an existing target. Industry maturity represents the maturity score average for your peers in the same industry sector. Your industry sector is defined under the Settings menu and Company Profile. Two important elements in the Hyver maturity assessment are: the NIST framework is voluntary guidance based on existing standards, guidelines, and practices for organizations to better manage and reduce cybersecurity risk. The second element is the maturity model assessment you use in Hyver to measure maturity in conjunction with the NIST CSF. First, let's examine the NIST framework. This framework is used because it is well known and commonly used, and it covers a typical organization's security posture. The NIST framework consists of 5 functions that are displayed on the left. Each of the 5 functions has specific categories that are more specific. Each category has several subcategories that are more specific. In the assessment, you assess the subcategories and select a maturity level in the maturity evaluation area. There are 108 subcategories, which are outcome-driven statements. Here's an example. In the NIST Identify function, asset management is a category, and within this category you have the subcategory. Physical devices and systems within the organization are inventoried. In the maturity assessment, you assess this statement as it applies to your organization. To calculate the maturity score for subcategories, Hyver uses findings, security technologies, manual maturity evaluation, and possibly data from Hyver insights that contribute to the score. The outcome is a maturity score that gives you a sense of your overall security posture. Findings in Hyver contribute to the maturity assessment by representing issues or vulnerabilities that are active or fixed in your organization. Findings may be pre-assigned to subcategories, so when you see a linked finding in the maturity assessment evaluation section, it's already been linked to that subcategory. When creating a new finding, you link it to a NIST subcategory. Findings and technologies provide good objectivity to the maturity assessment. Linked technologies are assets in Hyver of the type considered as a security control, such as an identity and access management (IAM) solution. To create a technology asset manually, go to the Assets page and create an asset. Selecting the asset type that is a security control, such as a SIM, Security Information and Event Management, solution, enables the automatic assignment of NIST subcategories to this technology asset. For the manual evaluation, the model uses a maturity level classification from 1 to 5. This evaluation allows you to assess the maturity level for each cybersecurity area based on the NIST subcategories in your organization. This rating is based on your assessment of the subcategory statement as it relates to your organization. Some subcategories may already have automatic maturity levels assigned based on existing information in Hyver. Let's look at the Calculation tab, where the option to select a maturity level manually is shown. Findings or linked technologies may be linked and influence the maturity score. You may add a reason for your maturity selection that informs others and can be used for later review. The calculated maturity score is based on a combination of the manual evaluation, linked findings, linked technologies, and possibly data from Hyver insights that contribute to the score. The score is split between the active elements. For example, if there are only findings and a manual evaluation with no linked technology, then it's 50% weighting for each. We briefly describe each maturity level from 1 to 5, with 5 being the best and 1 being the worst. We can see the short explanation for each if we hover over the maturity levels from 1 to 5. Maturity level 1, initial, represents not completed or completed in an ad hoc way. There are no processes in place or assigned responsibilities where applicable. Maturity level 2, developing, represents a situation where only a few applicable processes or controls are in place, or they are only partially implemented. Maturity, level 3, defined, represents where organization policies and procedures are defined and standardized, and the technologies are appropriately implemented. Maturity level 4, managed, represents where the effectiveness of technical systems is measured and evaluated, policy compliance is measured and enforced, and procedural effectiveness is monitored. Maturity level 5, optimizing, is the best state where all applicable elements are implemented, and the focus is on continuous improvement and responsiveness to change. Let's do a quick example of a maturity rating. In this example, let's look at the function. Identify. Category. Supply chain risk management. Subcategory. Response and recovery planning and testing are conducted with critical suppliers providers. In this example, I've determined that this subcategory outcome statement is true. Policies and procedures are defined and standardized, and the appropriate technology is in place and adequately implemented. I'm selecting level 3 because the outcome is good, but there's no enforcement, measurement, or monitoring needed for level 4. If I selected level 1 or 2, it would indicate a security gap, and I would need to add a finding, or 1 might have been added automatically. The maturity score is updated. The progression from maturity level 1 to level 5 represents an improvement in your organization's security posture. When you fix a finding, you can change the default maturity level of 3 to another level if you think it's more appropriate. You can change what subcategory is assigned to a finding through the Standards tab of the finding. Here, you can add a new subcategory to the finding, change an existing linked subcategory, or delete the linking when more than one subcategory is assigned. The Linked Technologies and Linked Findings tabs show the relevant lists. Please note, you might not have permission to view some or all findings listed on the maturity screen if you were not granted permission to view the findings in Hyver. The Standards tab shows corresponding standards or frameworks that are mapped to the NIST subcategories, for instance, ISO or SOC2. These mappings provide data helpful to users of other standards or frameworks for evaluation purposes. Add comments about this subcategory evaluation. Use the email symbol to mention another Hyver member who will receive an email with a link to the comment. The History tab shows a record of changes made to the subcategory. On the top of the screen, we have the number of findings in mitigation plans linked to the maturity out of all the findings that are eligible to be added to mitigation plans. On the top right are the number of subcategories with no score out of the total number of subcategories. To generate maturity scores, at least 50% of subcategories must have maturity scores to calculate a score for a NIST category. At least 50% of categories must have a score to calculate a score for a NIST function. At least 3 out of 5, 60%. NIST functions must have a maturity score to calculate an organizational maturity score. Finally, you can go to the risk dashboard to view summary data about the maturity assessment, which is useful for providing understandable maturity data to executives or management teams. In the Maturity by NIST function, hover over each function to view maturity details, such as target score and industry maturity per function. In the Maturity Trends graph, view trends over time for the maturity functions and the organization. These are useful for viewing by executives or management teams. Thank you very much for watching this short video. For more information, refer to the documentation.